Banks will be a very big story in the morning. JP Morgan, Citi, and Wells all set to report earnings tomorrow as the financial sector still in correction territory, so to speak, down more than 10% from the 52-week high. Joining us on what to expect tomorrow, Thomas Michaud is the CEO and president at KBW, a Stifel company who has forgotten more about banks than most of us will ever know. Good to have you,
Thank you.
Tom.
Nice to see you.
All right, so take us forward 24 hours. What are the headlines going to be tomorrow, do you think?
I think bank earnings are going to be very good. I think the market's going to generally like what they see. They're going to see good revenue growth. They're going to see good expense control. They're going to see improving net interest margins. And I think that the bull story on the fundamentals is going to be intact.
Why haven't shares reflected or started to price that in?
We're at an interesting point because the bank fundamental story is absolutely starting to play out. The economy's good. There are a lot of factors in the bank earnings favor, but it's really all the macro issues. It's all the talk about, are we going to have a recession? What's going to happen? I think it's really been that play. And I'll tell you where you've seen it. In the second half of June, the XLF, the largest financial ETF, had 13 straight down days for the first time in history and had outflows out of the fund. So really, it's been the macro issues driving it. And frankly, we think it's created some opportunities.
Yeah, but what changes that narrative? I mean, you could easily have come on last quarter and said, I see good earnings coming. And by the way, they were fairly good. I mean, there's always some deviation, but they were fairly strong. Stocks haven't done anything.
That's right.
What changes the narrative? I mean, does it take resolving the trade war before people calm down and focus on the fundamentals?
I'm a longer-term investor. I think in a year or two increment, and I think the fundamentals are really strong in many of the cases, especially the biggest banks. The small bank earnings are going to be just fine, but the biggest banks, I think, might present the most opportunity at this point in time.
Well, I know there's some frustration. I mean, you talk to somebody from Goldman Sachs, they'll say we traded 1.2 times book and I think 9 times earnings. I don't know what the multiple, very low.
Yeah.
But what changes it?
I think you just continue to execute. I think, and it's just like tomorrow's earnings. Tomorrow's earnings is just another stopping point on the bull story. And for the big banks, now Goldman's not the biggest one. The one we like is Bank America. Mm-hmm. That's a very big profitability improvement story. Their ROE is going to go from roughly 11 last year to what we think is going to be 18 in 2020. And we think for investors, it'll be a really good period for the stock. As long as we don't have a major recession, I think that bull story happens.
I'm just going to bring up the fact that last quarter, the trading activity was a real bright spot for some of these financials. Volatility was high. Haven't quite seen that as much this quarter.
No, we're expecting it to be down linked quarter and up a little bit year over year. The one I know that a lot of folks were talking about was Goldman. They did not have a particularly good year last year, so their year-over-year comps will look even better than average, but that's because of a weak year last year.
What do you tell investors who want to draw lines between what the curve is doing and what the bank's results will be?
And it's interesting because I'd say the conversation around the curve, at least in our conversation with investors, has been the predominant one. And I think the viewpoint is, first of all, with the fundamentals of the banks, they invest between 3 months and 5 years. That curve hasn't gotten as steep as the 2s, 10s. But the question really is, there's concern about what's going to happen to the economy. All the near-term outlook is very bullish for the economy. If we have a hard recession, the banking industry will be impacted. They're not recession-proof, as is most of corporate America.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.